Greetings my guzzlers. I need some biscuits, cookies if you want. We haven't got any. Now one of my favourites is Oreos. So, not right now. So I'm going to make some Oreos. So you're going to need your stand mixer, and then you're going to need a variety of ingredients and a bit of time. Because we have to do a bit of a chilling phase because it's an Oreo. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Oreos, whether you like it or not. But first off, we're going to get the butter and sugar creaming. So I've got some softened butter there. Okay, I'm just going to put that into the mixer. And then that's 225 grams. And then I've got 150 grams of caster sugar. In that goes. And I've got here 50 grams of muscovado sugar. In that goes. So, just get our beater. And what we're going to do is now cream that together till it goes light and fluffy. Without if I've kept the bowl in properly. So, Oreos are sold in over 100 different countries around the world. They produce lots of different varieties. Some different flavoured ones, limited edition ones from Pride, that causes a lot of fuss. But originally, an Oreo was an Oreo. Oh, by the way, it's the best selling cookie in the United States, and in 2014, so it's a little bit out of date, it was classed as the best selling cookie in the world. So anyway, I'm going to get creaming this together. That nice and fluffy, and now what we're going to do is we're just going to add one egg, and we're going to beat that in. Now I did have to stop and have a little scrape down, and I probably definitely will now with this egg. Okay, but we want to now just beat that in, get that all nicely mixed together, and like I say, if you need to, scrape down. So where's the name come from? One no one really knows for sure. One speculation is it's from the French or, meaning gold. Another one was simply that it was an invented name and it was a nice, easy and simple name to remember and pronounce. Although, to be honest, I don't know if it's Oreo or Oreo, but anyway. Another one said it came from a Greek word, Oreos, meaning nice or attractive. Someone else, a food writer, a modern food writer, Stella Parks, maintained it was derived from the Latin Oreodaphne, which is basically a Latin name for sort of laurel. And the original Oreos had a laurel wreath or a laurel leaves on it, and therefore she argued that's where the name come from. And it did fit in with Nabisco. We'll come back to Nabisco in a minute. Who also made different cookies and products, and they named them after sort of botanical names. So for instance, they produced the Avena, the Lotus, and the Helicon from Heliconia. So that's beaten together. I'm just going to scrape this off because I'm going to remove my beater, because we're now going to add the dry ingredients and I'm going to sieve them straight into this mixing bowl. You can, if you want, do it separately and then just add it in. It's up to you, but I'm going to do it straight in the bowl. The original Oreo was produced in the Chelsea factory in New York, and actually I believe where that existed or was is the street has been renamed Oreo Way. Anyway, in that goes for that. Right there, I'm going to reuse that in a minute. So, like I said, we want to sift in our dry ingredients. So I've got 250 grams, of plain flour. Then I've got a mixture of cocoa powder. Now you can go just completely the black cocoa powder, but that doesn't have quite so much of the chocolatey taste. It's more the colouring. So I've got 50 grams of dark cocoa powder. And I've got 100 grams of the black cocoa powder. Okay, that will give it more of its characteristic black biscuit look. and then I've got a teaspoon of salt, and we're going to add a half a teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda. And then all we want to do is get that lot sifted into there. So like I said, it was made in New York, 1912, by the National Biscuit Company, which nowadays we know as Nabisco. The original design, I think that's actually what I'm going to do. See what I mean about how black that gets? I'm going to use a spatula to help get that through, I think. The original design, like I think I said to you, was a wreath of like laurel leaves around the edge, and the word Oreo stamped in the middle. Now, to give you an idea about the cost, they were sold in sort of like, you know, they were meant to be something special, and they were sold in these sort of glass jars with metal caps on, or sorry, metal containers with glass tops. Get it around the right way. And at the time, they would have charged 72 cents, I think it was. No, 25 cents for a pound of biscuits, which is equivalent to $7.02 today. So, you know, they weren't cheap biscuits. Still aren't now. That's why I'm making my own. They were renamed in 1821 to the Oreo sandwich, and then in 1948 they changed the name again to the Oreo cream sandwich, and in 1974 it became the Oreo chocolate sandwich cookie, and that's what they're really, that's their proper name today. So the design changed, and in 1952 they changed the design of the biscuit a little bit, you know, the pattern if you like, and they incorporated the company name Nabisco onto it. What we're now going to do is we'll put our beater back on, and then I would suggest you start slow, because obviously there's a lot of fine powder in there, and what we don't want is that all flying out. So once we've mixed all this in together, we're going to roll it out, but we're not going to cut our cookies at this stage, because we're going to do a bit of a chilling session. So I'm just going to get this all mixed together. Get this straight down. Now you could, if you wanted, incorporate them flours by hand. It's up to you, and you might want to have a little bit of a mix once we've got the beater cleaned off. And there you've got your very black looking, typically Oreo looking dough. Now we're going to roll this, but we don't want to get rolling it and flouring the surface, because that will make the cookies go a bit weird, because it will have all this white in it. So we're going to roll it between some greaseproof paper. So I'll cut some sheets, and what we're going to do is divide this up into enough lumps that obviously when we roll it out, it stays within the paper, and we're going to try and roll it to about 3mm thick. So I'm just going to try and make some room for me rolling. Get this out of the way, for instance. So the filling we'll be making later, when we get to the sort of baking stage, because like I say, we're going to chill this, then we can bake them, or cut them out, we'll bake them, then they need to cool, and we'll make the filling. So the filling we're going to make is pretty much sort of a standard Oreo filling. It's a buttercream vanilla filling. The actual modern Nabisco version was developed in 1993. At that time it used to use lard, or they use lard in the biscuits anyway, and obviously there was health concerns about the fact it's lard, and so they replaced it with partially hydrogenated vegetable oil. and as a result, it also made it popular with vegans. However, if you read the packet information, or if you read their FAQ on their website, they will argue it's not suitable for vegans, and that's not because of the ingredients, but they argue it could be cross-contaminated with milk products which they use on the same line in a different range. So although the biscuit itself, the Oreo itself, is technically vegan, if you're really strict about things, you won't touch it as a vegan because you'll argue it might be contaminated. I'm just moulding this together into a ball, okay? And then, like I say, what we're going to do is we're now just going to roll that out. I'm just going to wash my hands though because they're a bit greasy and black. And then we're going to roll that, like I say, to about 3mm thick. I believe one of the, I'm actually finding it doesn't roll very easy because it slips in the grease-proof. So what I'm finding easier is actually just to do it like that. I suppose I could have got my wooden roller out and see if that made any difference, but there you go. Apparently part of the one of the sort of marketing ploys of it is that apparently you twist it in half and dunk the bits, and not that I've ever eaten like that. I would sometimes twist it in half, but I don't dunk it. But apparently Institute of Physics have said that it was Journal of Physics of Fluids in 1922. They produced a report saying it's absolutely impossible to twist the two halves and separate the cream so the cream splits down the middle, so you get a bit of cream on one side and a bit of cream on the other. It's impossible to do that. It'll always have all the cream on one and none on the other. But there you go, just so a bit interesting. Right, so like I said, this is now going to just go into the fridge and it's going to chill for at least 30 minutes. At the end of that 30 minutes, we can then start thinking about putting our oven on. We're going to put our oven on at 170 if it's fan, 20 degrees higher if it's not a fan. Okay, and I'm going to use this, I can't remember how big that is, but basically you can make them as big as you like. But I'm going to use that cookie cutter. So it's just have a little bit of a clean up, and then final little bit of stuff to tell you about Oreos, mainly to do with the British version. What we're now going to do is just going to cut out our cookies. Now we can reuse the scraps, we can re-roll it, however, just like we did just now, well I say just now, once we've re-rolled our odd bits, chill again for 30 minutes in the fridge, and then we can go through this process again. So I was saying to you, there's a little bit more to tell you about the UK. Where's me palette knife? Can I find me big one? Oh well, there it is. Oreos, obviously an American thing, but they were introduced initially by the supermarket Sainsbury's in the UK. Oh, by the way, they shouldn't spread an awful lot, a bit sticky, so you can put them fairly close together. By 2020, a national poll had voted Oreos, because they're not everybody's favourite, are they? They'd been voted, these aren't coming off with palette knife very easily, they've been voted, I think it was the 16th most popular biscuit in the UK. The most popular biscuit in the UK back then was the digestive biscuit. So, like I said to you, they're going into an oven at 170, and you're probably going to cook them for about 15 minutes, but keep an eye on them. Okay, and then when they come out of the oven, we're just going to put them on the wire rack and get them to cool thoroughly before we can put our buttercream filling in. The British recipe was slightly different to the American one. They used whey powder. Now whey powder meant that this made it unsuitable for anybody with a lactose intolerance, but equally it also prevented it being sold for vegetarians, because at that time the whey powder was derived from rennet, basically from calf rennet. So the British version was unsuitable for vegans. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep getting, I've got 3 lots of this, get this out, get it cut, put my scraps together, re-roll it, and then like I said, going in the oven for about 15 minutes. I think there's 22 actual sandwich cookies, or there will be, assuming none break when I put them together. And now we're going to make the buttercream. So it's just standard buttercream. So now I've got this nice soft butter, 160 grams. And I'm just going to put that into there, and we're just going to cream that up. Helpful with the beacon on, wouldn't it? And we're just going to cream that a bit, and then I've got over there some icing sugar. I've got 250 grams of that, and I'll sift that into there. Because I'm going to be putting the icing sugar in, I've got my guard on so don't make a mess everywhere. We're going to add a minute amount of salt. We're going to add a little bit of vanilla flavouring. And then you're going to need a piping bag with either a large round nozzle or a star nozzle. It's up to you what you want. So I'm just going to get this whipped up, and then we're chucking the icing sugar. Like I said to you, we're going to sift that icing sugar in there. Now it's not an awful lot, otherwise I'd split it into 2 batches. So I'm just going to get that sifted in. I'll start that on slow. I know I've got the guard on, but obviously we're getting clouds of icing sugar. So we're just going to get that all mixed in together. And then, like I say, we're going to add a pinch of salt, some vanilla essence, and if necessary, just to thin it a little bit, got some milk, about a tablespoon of milk. So we want to add about 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt and 1/4 of a teaspoon of vanilla. If I turn the spoon the right way around, wouldn't it? Of vanilla extract. And then we're just going to, like I say, give that its final combination together. And if it's a bit thick, I mean obviously we want this thick-ish, but we don't want it too thick. We've got a little bit of milk here just to dilute it down, but it might not need it, or you might not want to add all of that. Just see how it goes. But I've paired up the biscuits, and generally most of them pair up nicely and neatly. It is very warm, and this is very soft, this buttercream. I didn't add any milk. And after we've made these, I think the good idea will be, which you can do anyway, is to chill them in the fridge. But what we're going to do is we're just going to put a blob into the centre. So like I say, I've paired them up to make sure you put it on the right side, as it were. And then all we're going to do is just gently sandwich them together. So I'm just going to go through all of these, get them all done. I'm going to chill them for a little bit just to make them a little bit more solid, and then we'll taste them. I miscounted, just had one cookie, not one to pair it with. So what I've done, I've just put a generous dob of the vanilla buttercream on top. And so this hasn't had a chance to chill a little bit, but let's try it anyway. Although the inside obviously is almost like runny at the minute, and like an Oreo, which is a little bit stiffer. But the biscuit. The it's perhaps not quite as intense. It's chocolatey, but not quite the same. But although having said that, there's a lot of buttercream there. I was going to say, I did try a little scrap of the biscuit on its own, and that did taste just like an Oreo biscuit. I think the amount of buttercream I've put on here, the sweetness is taken away a little bit from that. But you could do away with the ordinary dark cocoa powder and just use all black, but you won't really get an awful lot of chocolate through. There you go then, homemade Oreos.